Hi, friends, and good evening. This is Dream Books Films once again here with you. Today, we have a very, very special session. It's a panel discussion between two chief mentors on Dream Books Films who are stalwarts in their walks of life. Let me, before I bring them on and we begin, I'm here to help you understand what does Dream Books Films do in a nutshell in 2 minutes. I'm Candy, and from Dream Books Films, I have the pleasure today of talking and connecting with all of you. We've all dreamt of having our, hence dreams, books, and films. We've dreamt of having our story into a book, maybe, and some of us are petrified when we say, oh, book and oh, film. I don't know how to do that. What's the journey? Is it very long? Is it very expensive? Is it, very tedious? I have a family to take care of. I have a job. How do I do this? Who can help me? I think these are very simple starting points that happen in all with all of us. And so Dream Books Films is like a boutique creative know-how consulting team at your disposal. You reach out to us and find out how to take that journey. Begin somewhere is what I like to say. You've got to begin somewhere, right? So if you have a dream or a concept, you like fascinating stories being told there. Many of them coming from people like you and me, and all casual stories, some made up into a fabricated stuff, and made it into a glam so that we enjoy the journey. So there is content that is required. There is a story that everyone wants to see and hear. And how do you get it out there? It's not such a difficult task anymore in today's age. And thanks to the technology that, platform and leveling that has happened, that you could be at any age or stage of your career or life, and take that half written story, a book, or maybe, or take the script. I mean, I'm using the technical term script here, but it could be a 2-page story. So it is in these one-to-one face-to-face sessions with our chief mentors, you get into the process and find out how to do it, how to make art and business come together, to make that, you've got to be pitch ready. Like all corporate people understand, you've got to have a pitch deck when you're talking to a client. Similarly, you need to have a market ready proposal to be able to approach, a platform or an OTT platform, or just to be able to tell them, listen, I have a nice story. They won't listen to you if you just say, I'd like to talk to you. Right? Many of us do that. But with our mentors, you can say that. You can say, I'd like to talk to you and describe my story. Okay, so that's where we begin. And today we're going to cover the journey of a story. Okay, beyond the mind. So you just can't keep that thought in the mind. Do something with it. Don't pickle it. Again, that's my phrase. Don't pickle it. Market the pickle and become one of those huge brands like Priya Pickles, Bedekars, or MTR. Like, and they're exporting. They're not even available in India now. So today I am going to be bringing on to the panel two of very, very reputed in their own walks of life as chief mentors of books, to edit a book, make a book, design a book, all of that, and take a story, okay, to the film, to the digital platform, or to make it into a theatrical kind. So both of the chief mentors are going to be on our panel today, and I'm going to bring from backstage now, and our first chief mentor, Ganesh Vancheeswaran. So give me a moment. And while you're here, I know we are going to cover a lot of questions, but I'm adding Ganesh to our stream. So hi, Ganesh.
Hi.
Good evening.
Yes, wonderful evening here. Am I
And
audible?
what is the meaning of yes, very loud. What is the meaning of here? Where are you?
No, I'm at home. I'm in Bangalore, and for the last few days, we've been having superb weather. It's gusting. It's raining intermittently raining, and
Mhm.
generally very cloudy throughout the day. The sun does break in once in a while, but otherwise, I think this is the kind of weather, my weather, yeah. So I just love
Mm.
it.
I love Bangalore as well, and I'm from there, part from
I know, I
now
know.
in. So today I'm happy to welcome you, Ganesh. We are doing the second session with you and Brahma. Brahmanand
Yes.
will join us in a few moments, but for the our viewers and people who will watch this video later, I'd like to give a brief introduction of you and what we're doing today. Yeah.
Sure.
S- so today's topic, friends, is the journey of a book beyond your mind. Okay. And here we are going to figure out a couple of pertinent questions that you've sent us and the answers to that, and how we can navigate that journey. So let me introduce you to Ganesh Vancheeswaran. He's a person branding coach, a writer, editor of books, and a voiceover artist. He's our chief mentor on Dream Books Films, supports us on all our projects, and various people who are at different stages of writing a book, and completing it. So Ganesh is a catalyst for self-expression. That's a very nice term to use, and you will understand this as we go along. As a writer, editor of books, and person branding, he helps people express themselves and bring out their message powerfully. Now, that's very key, right? He works with a wide range of clients, including entrepreneurs, independent consultants, speakers, trainers, and senior corporate professionals. Ganesh is the author of the popular book, The Underage CEOs, fascinating stories of young Indians who became CEOs in their 20s. Now, all of you in the 20s, just note this, yeah? You must come to Ganesh, and I'm sure you'll be in that list. Published by HarperCollins. As an editor and publishing consultant, he helps people bring their books out in their most impactful form. The Right Path, WRITE, his masterclass on writing, publishing, and marketing a book is very, very popular. Ganesh has bylines in leading publications such as Christian Science, Monitor, The Mint. I'm sure many of you read Mint and you'll have seen that. The Hindu, Khalij Times, Conde Nast Traveler, one of my favorite books, which I love to read, and Dream, GQ, Travel Plus Leisure, Scroll, and others. He loves trekking, new movies, music, conversations, silence, mind you. So we're all going to listen very carefully, and absurd humor. He lives in Bangalore with his families, like you already heard him say. And I am very privileged to be able to discuss how the path is going to, be made, or what's the journey of that story in our heads and beyond the head, right? So that's the journey today. And so let me hand this over to Ganesh. You want to say something?
I just want to say thank you for those fulsome words. Thanks for that lovely introduction. I think you've captured my essence very well. And hi to our viewers. I think both Candy and I love sessions like these, and sessions in which we can explain processes, decode stuff for you, make it clear that all of us have to start at some point or time or the other, start wherever we are on our journey now. I think Candy referred to this earlier in intro too. So talking about all of these, laying them bare, answering questions, clarifying doubts is something that both of us love, and so it's great to be here, Candy, and it's great to be here, listeners, viewers. So I'm looking forward to a very nice conversation. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks for that. So let me begin without much ado. We've taken 5 minutes to introduce, and I think to set the context of what we're going to do today, while we wait and continue this panel discussion with the other chief mentor who will join us soon, Mr. Brahmanand Singh.
Yes. Yes.
So we'll continue. We'll begin, and he will join us midway, I'm sure. So let's
Yep.
begin with the first question that came in, Ganesh, and it is. Uh, See, there are points when we are writing a story, and I'm going to put 4 or 5 questions together from a lot of people who have written this. They've written it in different ways, and I'm just culling
Right.
out the meaning of it.
Right.
So how does one know that at a particular stage? And I'll just use the example of maybe Red Riding Hood. Okay, so suppose
Okay.
we didn't know the story, and I
Hmm.
know Red Riding Hood, and I've brought her to the forest, and she's still picking apples, and then she sees the wolf, okay, or the fox,
Hmm.
whichever.
Hmm. Hmm.
So now I don't know if it has commercial potential. I'm writing for the pleasure and passion of writing Red Riding Hood, okay? But I don't know at which point it really has commercial potential to make it into a book or to a film. I mean, I'm web series, and I'll leave the web series part for Brahma to respond to. But for
Right.
you, how would I know? I've got Red Riding Hood. I'm in red today, so I'd like to talk of Red Riding Hood.
Oh, I'm seeing that only now. I'm seeing glimpses of red just now. All right.
Okay,
Uh,
so now the wolf is there. She's seen her grandmother's told her be careful. She's picked up her apples and the basket of goodies. She's going back home. She meets the wolf, right?
right.
So that's
Right.
Red Riding Hood story. Now we all know the
Hmm.
story, so it's interesting. But if I was at this stage, how would I know I'm commercially? What do I need to do with it? What do I make? Is it worth making a book? Over to you.
Of course, it's worth making a book. Let me start with where you ended. Let me start with that. Of course, it's worth writing a book. Yeah, at any stage in life, at any point of time, under any circumstances. In fact, one of the things that I say in my workshop is I tell every participant, all of us have at least a book in us. I say this to everybody, and I'm saying this with conviction. I've seen so many people, spoken to so many people, folks who've written a book, folks who've not written a book, folks who've started out and then stumbled and then fallen, behind and stopped for whatever reason. Folks who've not even thought of writing a book. So I keep speaking to all kinds of folks, and from my personal experience and from my observation and conversations, it's my considered belief that there is
Mm-hmm.
at least one book in every one of us. So I think it's an immensely worthwhile pursuit. Uh, Keeping aside commercial considerations, I think there's something else that I want to speak about. I think all authors and aspiring authors should consider this. It is, if nothing else, it is getting your story out into the world. By story, I mean your message, whatever it is that you want to speak about. Um, you could have, you might be a practitioner in some field. You might be a painter, a potter, an expert in sales, an expert in whatever, right? So a lot of people have a lot of knowledge bottled up in them. All right. A book is a great way of bringing this knowledge out and sharing that with thousands of other people. So that's one way of bringing your story out. The other way of bringing your story out is your life journey, your experience.
Right.
You can write an autobiography, you could write a memoir, you could write, by memoir, I mean a sketch of your life, one particular aspect of your life. Even if you
Mm-hmm.
think that you're too young to be writing your autobiography or not too important for that, right? So these are doubts that creep up in my mind, right? But even so, there are always aspects of our life which I think merit exploration, merit detailing out, that can be brought out into a book for the interest of other people, and they can inspire and guide the others. Your memoir, one little slice of your life, incidents that have happened to you, could be of immense importance and relevance to others. So that's another way of bringing your story out. A third way is, of course, if you want to write fiction, you create a story. You create a story in your mind, and you give birth to it. You just write a book based on that. So there are other formats also, of course, but these are predominantly the large, the most important formats by which one would want to express some part of themselves or some part of their life and knowledge. So I think it's really worthwhile considering or writing a book, irrespective of which of these motivations you come from. And you asked me, the other part of your question was about commercial feasibility and commercial success. All right.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's a little tricky, but possibly there's a way. There's no guarantee,
Always.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are always ways. There are always ways. But much like a film, and this box office success, it's really difficult to predict. It's difficult to predict the success of a book, how many numbers it will sell, whether it will make any amount of money for you. But um, the way I'd look at it is, I think, first of all, write about something that you have conviction in. Okay.
Okay.
So that's step one. So I'm convinced about this. I feel powerfully about this, and I want to take this out into the world. Is step number one that you must cross in your mind. That's your first milestone. If you cross that and you think, okay, this has immense relevance to my life and I feel very powerfully connected with it, then there are chances that there'll be other people also connecting equally strongly with it. Because after all our lives are mirrors of one another, Candy. Okay. We are all mirrors of one another, right? So what I've undergone, what I think powerfully about, chances are that of the 7 billion other people in the world, there will at least be 1,000 other people or a lakh other people who will feel equally strongly about it, who will find it equally relevant. So that's my step one, my own conviction. Now, if I find that's I've crossed that step, I would outline the story, outline the book, outline the plot, put together what I call a concept note. All right. Write out a synopsis and an outline, and just write one or two chapters. Give that skeleton, which is that outline, give it a little bit of flesh and bones. All right. And I would then circulate it to a set of 15, 20 people. And I take care to choose these 15, 20 people. I take care. So it has to be a mix of people who are close to me. There's no harm in sending this out to your friends or your close colleagues, etc. But it'll be great if you can also send this out to strangers. So through friends of friends or colleagues of colleagues, friends of colleagues. So you start circle, but then snowball beyond that first level. And this is critical. Otherwise, if you just end up sending it to, family and friends, and everybody's going to say, sorry, I don't know what happened. One sec.
You said family and friends, and then you went upside down.
So,
Mm.
chances are that their emotions will come and play, right? So they're very close
Mm.
to you. They'll want to say, yes,
Mm.
everything is good. They'll want to encourage you with the
Actually,
best.
not. The reverse happens.
Okay, you have all kinds. Yeah, you have all kinds. You have the good kind, you have the bad kind. So I'm speaking of
Mm.
the good kind.
Mm. Mm.
They'll have your best interests in mind, and generally because they like you, they think, this is good work. Yeah, the emotion
Mm.
comes in play. All right. So one has to be wary of that, which is why
Mhm.
I'm saying that it's important for the outline and your couple of chapters to reach at least maybe 15, 20 strangers, right? And take your time,
Mm.
be
Mm.
patient with the
Mm.
step, because I think this is the foundational step. And if
Mm.
these people come back to you with good feedback, good resonance, then I think you have
Mm.
a case. All right, then you have the chances that it'll also be a commercial success. And
Mm.
then we move on from there. Then we start developing it, writing out the other chapters. Then you have some confidence about commercial feasibility. I think that's how I do it.
Okay, so you mentioned great. So you mentioned many things. Okay, one is what I took away, and I'm going to be a novice on side of all the writers and novices, right? And the established ones. You said two things. One is conviction, and then you said commercial success, and you can't guarantee anything. Perfect. Okay, forget the guarantees. There's nothing like that that exists. It happens. It happens. It's great. Um,
Right.
when you said conviction, I think that's where it stops because, and that's the question, and that's the seed and key. Fine, parents or family would say, you write such rubbish, you might as well pickle it for some time, do more of it. They always tell you research more, don't take this, and it's rubbish, right? But however,
Candy,
sometimes
if
I've
they tell
seen
you that, that's great. If they tell you that, that's brilliant feedback. It's
they
only
do.
robust. All right,
Right,
that's the
right.
kind of feedback one usually gets from strangers. That's what you should get. And constructive feedback
Mm-hmm.
from strangers are always welcome, right? From anybody. But the
Mm.
risk, and I've seen this time and again with people, is that family and friends generally pat you on the back. So they generally, there's this
Oh,
too much of familiarity. You've been in their life for
yeah.
too long. Okay. So anything that you do is generally you get a pat on the back and you say, ha, it's nice. And you should go ahead. But
Right.
that's not the kind of feedback that one wants.
Mm. Mm.
And that's why
So
I
then,
said it to other people.
yeah. So then that's when I come to conviction. Now that is the exact conviction of a little bird who's born, waiting to jump off the nest. The conviction and this
Yeah.
fear is there, right? It's not
Yes.
easy to
Yes.
make that first flight, right? And you see
Yes.
that happening with sparrows. I mean, outside, and I've seen that
Yeah.
a mountain times. Like, jump, baby, jump. We are like, you have the wings. You have to remember you've got wings, and they
Correct.
forget because they're just born, right?
Correct.
But and that's similar to us. We have invisible wings, but the
Yep. Yep.
courage of conviction comes very, very difficult when you're writing, because not of a fear of rejection or someone saying what rubbish you've written, is because you end up, there's just one single thing, is what will people think of me? Will they relate this story to me? Because Red Riding Hood, I gave you an example. Or does she think she's Red Riding Hood? Or is she going to bring a wolf? Is she representing the world's chaos of, all wolves around? These things are limiting beliefs and what voices in your head. How does that,
Yep.
how does one get to out of that and to that conviction? You get a mentor like you. What? I mean, you know,
There are two, three ways to do that. One
yeah.
is to um, start writing in some form or the other. I've spoken about this earlier also in our earlier session and in
Mm-hmm.
our private conversations. I think it's always important to start jotting down whatever comes to your mind in some form or the
Yes.
other and developing familiarity with just self expression. All right. I'm repeating this, developing familiarity and developing comfort
Mm-hmm.
with self expression. So, all of a sudden, if I just sit down and say, hey, that's a great idea for a book, I think, and I should write a book, yes, I would be conditioned. We are conditioned by society, by
Mm-hmm.
generations, by media, by everything else, and therefore we have those limiting beliefs. But which is why I'm saying that our journey of writing, our experience with writing should ideally begin much before we actually put pen to paper in the form of a book. So I always say, start a blog, keep a diary, just keep a diary and start journaling, or have an idea ideas book, scrapbook of ideas. So
Hello.
for you and for your close friends. But at least at that level, I think it's very important to develop comfort with writing, which is nothing but a form of self expression. So that is one recommendation, one suggestion that I have. Other is I go back to conviction. Assuming that you're doing what I've said just now.
I'm just
Um, yeah, sure.
no,
You
keep
want me to
talking. I
wait?
think I'm getting a call, Brahma. I think no, you continue talking. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, sure. The other thing that one has to do is somewhere along the way, this familiarity with self expression will help us overcome doubts about should I need to express this? Should I bring this out at all? Am I capable of doing this? Will there be takers for this? So I think one beauty of the journey of self expression, be that orally in terms of spoken poetry or oration, public speaking, or in the written form, the beauty is, and it's a nuance that we discover as we go along. We don't find this before, or we can't even imagine this. So the beauty that we find is that we, at some point of time, say, bugger all. I really don't care what others think of this. I am convinced that the universality of what you're saying is going to give you confidence. So whatever you write, because of your familiarity with the dynamics of writing and self-expression, is going to build confidence in you, is going to build self-belief, and that's going to propel you. That's going to help you as a sparrow, tender little sparrow, take that leap. So that confidence and a little bit of confidence and a little bit of bugger all attitude, that's really important. I don't care what others think of this. This bridge or this barrier you will cross for yourself as you write, as you self express, as you speak more. So,
And
which is why I'm, yeah.
is age a factor in this, or is it are people more courageous when they're younger or when they cross a certain age? Have you seen that in this writing journey? It's just a question I thought of
Yes,
just
yes,
now.
yes, yes. I think the confidence and the
Yeah.
the daring do is more when you're younger, possibly till you're about
Okay.
45, 50 types. Uh,
Oh.
and the daring do comes from different ways. One is
Mhm.
the bugger all attitude. There are so many forms of expression out there. Everything
Uh-huh.
is okay these days, and
Mhm.
that's really nice. You see improv, improvised theater, improvised forms of poetry. You see flash fiction. You see writers sprints. By that I mean some 15, 20, or 100 people coming together, unknown people coming together and sprinting. Writing during a 1 hour window or a 4 hour window. So there are
Mhm.
all forms of writing and speaking
Mhm.
expressions coming up now, forms, which is great, which is what gives, I think, the younger, more tech savvy, more networked people. By networked, I don't mean professionally, but more social. Let me use the word social.
Mhm.
It gives social people confidence that I can also do it.
Mhm.
Let me jump
Mhm.
into the fray. Um, for the
Mhm.
slightly older lot, people who are between 30 and 45 or 30 and 50 or 35 and 50, I think they get
Mhm.
a lot of this conviction from their own journey because they've
Mhm.
navigated life to a certain extent. They have a lot of experiences behind them. Uh, and if you're talking about someone who's a professional who wants to write in the professional realm, I think there is a
Mhm.
lot of knowledge accumulated in that person already. So
Right.
conviction comes in that age group, 35 to 50. You'll see that it's very beautiful from the journey of life itself. Uh, Post 50, I think, is where, and especially if you're not really tech savvy, if you're not really, gregarious, if you're not really social,
Uh-huh.
I think there are that kind of people also who may
Mhm.
have more doubts about starting off. It's not a
Mhm.
doubt about where they will end. Later on, the power of conviction kicks in. They are equally self expressive, they write very beautifully. But I think just to begin with, I think they need a little bit of hand holding.
Right. So that's where you as a chief mentor would come in, and that's where the question was: how does one know that Red Riding Hood with the wolf and her pocket packet of goodies and apples is actually commercially viable? What you're saying is, what we hear is, as from the readers and the viewers, is that go ahead, take that leap of the sparrow, go and write that book, curate it, do it, and get a mentor and then think about commercials. You're saying don't think about that right at the start. Am I getting that correct, Ganesh?
Yes, that's one part, yes, of what I said. Good takeaway. The other takeaway is to build familiarity. I think the more you build
Okay.
familiarity and not keep it just for the last moment when you think of making a film or a book, I think that's really important. Familiarity with self expression and
Okay.
starting that journey for yourself much earlier, as early as possible. I think that makes a lot of
Okay.
difference because then the craft kicks in, the craft starts talking to you, and that's really important.
Okay, so at this point, thank you, Ganesh. I'm going to welcome Brahmanand Singh ji onto our panel. And we began, Brahmanand ji, without you. We just began 15 minutes ago. And
Sorry about
I
that.
had.
Hello, welcome, most welcome.
And
Yes.
so let me just introduce to everyone and welcome our chief mentor and award-winning filmmaker and author and our advisor, Brahmanand Singh. He is a Rex Karmavir Chakrawarti, as everyone knows, a national award-winning producer, filmmaker, author, and speaker. Veteran in the film industry for his awesome docu-biopics on R.D. Burman and Jagjit Singh, and he's on beautiful films on various topics that he writes and produces and makes on human trafficking and child labor, backpacking, traveling, educational excellence, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and many others. He's a much sought after consultant on many creative projects. We are very proud and privileged to have him on Dream Books Films as a chief mentor for everyone to come to us and take his mentoring. He wears different hats like that of an entrepreneur, filmmaker, writer, inventor, currently helming countless projects, and so he jumps around and gives us a little time to advise us, which is wow. uh, he is the author of 4 best-selling books and co-authored similar number of national and international books. He's also published over 3,000 articles in 20 prominent newspapers. And I know I remember that last time when we had the panel discussion, Brahmanandji actually told us about how he was writing for the so many papers in Calcutta and how he began his career. One of the questions with Shaliman, our guest, and so that's where we are happy and would like to learn a lot more. And today's discussion is very very pertinent, and also I'm bringing a lot of questions from our people who have sent in and budding writers and all that. And the first question we began was, how do we know if a story has commercial potential for a book or for a web series? So Brahmanandji, you would like to add for related to films and web series, how would I know? Like I just given an example, if Red Riding Hood had seen the wolf and she was in the forest with apples and a goodie bag, how me as a writer, all of us know the story of Red Riding Hood, but if you didn't know and I was at that stage, how would I know it's commercially viable for a web series or a film? Taking that as an example.
Put in a lot of masala and you have it commercially viable. Yes, you have. Well, that's the popular notion. That's the popular notion. When you talk about commercially viable stories and you talk about OTT and things like that, they all on the surface look for masala. They have, many of them have a secret code called LSD, which is love, sex, and dhoka. You know, but at the same time, you write anything which is strong, powerful, uh, introspective, reflective, that touches people, which has emotions, which has twists, turns, reversals, character insights, plot or no plot, it works. Anything that can grip you as a page turner is a minute turner for web series or films. So that is always commercially viable. So anything that you write, you can write about politics and religion and your personal experience, and you can write a blade of grass. That's what Maupassant did to Gustav Flaubert. He made him sit under a tree and said, "Now write whatever you can think about the tree," and he came out. So I think you put attention to a blade of grass, as one of the big poets, I forget who says it, but and it starts looking huge to you. So I think that the secret to writing bestsellers and secret to writing anything that's commercially viable is first that you do not think of commerce. First, you think of creating something which you like, so that If nobody likes it, at least there is one person who likes it, and that is you. Okay, that's number one. Having said that, you once you have been around, and if you're a sharp mind, or you take help of people who are sharp minds, you can bounce off ideas even before getting into writing. You can bounce off ideas that, well, there could be seven ideas that you're toying with,
Hmm.
and I I had just a 3.5 hour meeting just 1 hour back today with one of the biggest filmmakers. I won't name him, and well, there are so many ideas that he's bubbling with, but obviously he's not going to go ahead with all of them.
Hmm.
So he'll weigh the pros, cons, his own common sense from what he has known of the audience and things like that. So I feel that this it's a two-way journey. One is that you have to be, it has to be lyrical. By lyrical, I mean it has to start from inside out. Okay,
Hmm.
it has to be your story. There has to be something unique, something special, something not run of the mill. Even if you're writing about you falling in love at the age of 17, and you ditching someone, or you being ditched by someone at the age of 17, and between 20 having three affairs, now that's nothing unusual. Everybody has that. But what
Hmm.
happens in that? What are you learning? What are the unusual uh, goings on that happens, and how much of insight, how much of reflection, how much of unexpected twists and turns, how much of humor, all these things, what will appeal to the other. So I think the the basic thing is, when you are in a group at the age of 10 or 12, or later at the age of 15, 16, how do you hold your group of friends? The simpler test is there. Do people listen to you, or do you start saying something and people say, okay, 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 wait? That's a very first uh, test, that which
Hmm.
means you're not able to hold people's attention. So
Uh,
Coleridge has that line that you fix someone with that ancient mariner's gaze, ancient mariner's spellbinding. You have to spellbind. You have to be so good with storytelling. So the question here that we will struggle with is that, how do you become a master right from the beginning? You don't become a master right from the beginning, but you try, you sound it out, you are willing to hear from 20 people that is complete rubbish, and you don't
mhm.
get sentimental about it. You look at it, you learn from it, you understand why people are calling it rubbish. Don't go by one person calling it rubbish. He might not like your face, but if seven people are saying that it's rubbish, then there is something much more than your face which he likes or does not like. So I
Hmm.
think these are some of the very basic things. There are no rules and regulations for these things. There's no rules for success. There's no rules for you know striking it big. Like, I mean, there are rules, but a lot of it comes out from your own inner feeling. You can always be guided. When you have mentors, you have the luxury of not reinventing the wheel all over again. That's the
Hmm.
only benefit. But still, you have to do the hard work. You have to be disciplined. You have to be a sharp learner. You have to be critical of yourself and of your work. And if you are able to do all these things, then there's nothing that will stop you. You will write a very successful book. You will find publishers. You may have difficulty in finding, but that's not enough to stop you from publishing, whether self-published or otherwise. And once you have published, how do you convert them into something which is viable, and a story that may be of interest to filmmakers and web series makers and all? These are all uh, on the same gradient. It's one after the other. You cross one signal first, and then you don't stop for to start off with all the signals turning green. You start off,
Hmm.
and then you wait somewhere a little bit till the signal turns green. That's it.
Right. So I think that gives a very very simple way, thank you, Brahma, on the fact that you begin the journey, right? Put your first step, don't come out of that conviction, take off the first, like we spoke about the sparrow. She just needs to jump off, right? That
Yep.
conviction in the head, and get mentors. I think this is a very important concept of today. Earlier, we didn't have this. Even 10 years ago, we had our teachers, maybe we had, our parents, or maybe just friends who nudged us along, and all of us have written, people have written great books and made great films. But
No,
today
you. No,
a
but
structured.
yes, I'd like to slightly add
Sure.
here. Well,
Yeah.
concept of mentors is not at all new. Every generation had mentors. Every good
Yeah.
writer or musician or a filmmaker
Yeah.
have had mentors. Yes, they have not come out in
Gurus.
vacuum. Yeah, the Guru Shishya Parampara is nothing. Take the West or take the East. You take, well, that's the Flaubert had Maupassant.
Mm,
Okay, Bill
mm.
Gates had Warren
Yeah, I
Buffett.
do.
So it's not unusual. It's not at all
Coaches and
unusual.
mentors have always been there.
Yeah,
Yes.
people learn by attaching themselves, looking up, serving them, helping them,
Mm,
assisting them, listening, imbibing, constantly keeping their minds and antennas open. Those who can do that, they are the ones who don't need a mentor after some time. So Vivekanand's line that whenever the pupil is ready,
the
whenever
teacher
the
comes.
disciple is ready, the teacher appears. And he has another line: whenever the disciple is very ready, the teacher disappears.
Disappears. Yeah, he
Yes.
adds that
So
next. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So it's an equally
Automatically.
important concept. Yes.
So, however, when I said structured in this business, in terms of the current wave of what we're going through, it's a very important factor that you don't step out of the house on your own and decide, okay, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to do this. If you're really looking to make an impact, and that's where I think the being market ready, as you call it, and we take that term, to be ready to be able to I mean, is passion enough? Some of the questions: is it an arduous journey? Does it take a long time? What all does it take? Because fine, we answer these questions various other panels as well, but certain doubts remain into the authenticity of this path to take it to a Netflix, or that's the digital platform I'm talking of for films and stories. And if you have a book, what does it take to convert it? I think I've done it and been there. I've got a book. Can I just go to a platform? I think that's the question as well, which has come up.
Yeah. So
Uh,
when you have Yeah, so when you have a book, when you have a story, you don't go to the platform. The platform won't entertain writers. Okay, the platform will entertain producers. Okay,
hmm,
the
hmm,
platform will not even entertain directors. Directors have to find producers. Sometimes the director is also a producer. So for anyone having a worthwhile book or wanting to try it out, I would say, please don't send your book synopsis and uh, 8-part series, season 1, season 2, to a Netflix or an Amazon. That's like a waste of an effort. You have to first find a producer who might be interested, a producer or a director, or a director and a producer. So, or an actor who might want to take it to an ex-producer, but anyone but the platform. You don't straight away go to the platform. So once you have a producer attached or a director attached, then it's time for you. Now whoever makes the effort depends on your internal understanding and equation, but that book has to be turned into a script. A book is not a script. Let it be very, very clear. These are two completely different things. The book is a potential script,
hmm,
but cinema writing, web series writing is very, very different. Okay.
hmm, hmm,
So yeah, it's it's a good beginning point, but it needs to be turned into a script first. Once you have
hmm,
the script, and again the script goes through 10 drafts, 12 drafts, 14 drafts, 16 drafts, very, very average.
hmm,
So just because you have written it twice and you are on second draft and you think that is, well, you might be, you might be complete and you may not need 9 drafts, but mostly it doesn't happen. 90%, 95%, you have to go through 7, 8 drafts, 10 drafts very easily,
hmm,
and there is a merit in that. We can talk
hmm,
that some other time, but basically you need to first write a script. You first need to understand the contours of a screenplay, the nuances of a screenplay. Either you write or you get an associated writer.
Mm,
Generally, the tip is get a screenplay writer, because just
mm,
because you have written a book, you may not be the most qualified person to write a screenplay. So
mm,
associate, whether it's friends, whether it's you are paying someone, doesn't matter. Whether the producer is paying someone, doesn't matter. Whether the producer is paying that person and the producer has paid you, both are possible. So all these things, but in some way or the other, after you have done the script, there is a pitch deck that gets created, and
mm,
that pitch deck has become much more important in the past 3 years or so, I would say. Especially with the advent of OTTs, they have their own pitch bible. They want 40 things, 50 things answered, and if you have not answered that very convincingly, then they won't reach the stage where they will read your script. But
mm,
if you don't have the script, you will not be able to make a good presentation. So they are kind of linked.
mm,
Now the question is that when not all books are already bestsellers, people don't make uh, millions of dollars on every book and all. Whereas the moment you step into cinema and web series, well, development costs. Okay, the development takes time, development costs, and you may have written a book and you may still have to invest money or find someone who will put in money. So these
mm,
are
Right.
all ways to do, all these things, but there is an economics attached to it. So if you put in money, you also get money, you also get money
mm,
back.
mm,
You have at the end the satisfaction of seeing your work recognized much more than just a book when we are talking about web series and films adaptations. So it's important that you walk out there and meet people, talk to them, impress them with your story, and make them believe that this must be made. It
mm,
needs that much. But for that, you need to have a very good book. So if you have potential of a good screenplay, and again, by potential I mean it has to move you, it has to touch you, it has to energize you, something or the other, even if it's not a very greatly written book, but it has all these elements. You can
mm,
entice some producer, some director, that well, this book may not be a great reference point, but
mhm,
it has great potential. So I was in a hurry when I wrote that book. Well, you can say these things, there's no shame in that. But I feel that it has such potential to lend itself to a visual and an action medium that I think it's
mm,
more suited towards web series or films. And I would be happy to engage or collaborate with people who can do it.
mm.
So let's do it. Javed Akhtar has that one wonderful line, "Kadam उठाओ तो मंजिल रास्ता बन जाती है." You know,
Right, the first step.
take a step and your destination becomes a journey. It's no longer a destination because you have moved towards it. So
Mm,
action, action, action. I would always advise on action and the right pathway meaning right associations, right collaborations. If mentorship required, great. If you're capable of doing it on your own, so be it. But you have to move on, you have to move towards your end point.
mm, mm,
No 2 days should be static.
mm, mm.
I agree.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
So you want to say something, Ganesh, on this? What you just.
I want to add the aspect of mindset here. Yeah, whether that's film or book. And Brahma touched. I want to take off from one sentence that he said, which is about you should be ready to um, something to the effect of you should be ready to destroy what you've done and start afresh
Yes.
and
Yeah.
start afresh and start afresh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's extremely important, and that's the creator's mindset. From the greatest creators of all time, you will find this common thread. And the earlier we inculcate that, and the earlier we feel comfortable, make ourselves comfortable with this, I think the smoother this journey is going to become. Because smoothness or roughness is not so much a question of whether something is being rejected or not. It's actually a question of how you are taking that rejection or acceptance. The roughness or smoothness is all here, up in the mind. It's not out in the
Mm,
market first. At first it's within
mm,
us. So the creator's mindset is you get feedback from, we discussed getting feedback from 15 strangers, remember earlier?
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
really important. Go beyond family and friends, and not just soothsayers, not just yeah, yeah, yeah. So when you get feedback that something is crap or something needs to be fixed, or there is some merit in this, basic plot acha hai, but there are a lot of frills that need to come in. So all kinds of feedback come in. It's possible. You have to have the mindset of sitting, putting pen to paper again and saying, okay, theek hai, in a slightly detached way, I'm going to go about this. So just because मैंने कुछ लिख दिया, it doesn't mean, okay, it's your baby, yes, but you must be able to willing to give birth to baby after baby after baby. And there'll be many stillborns. Let's be clear about that. All right. That's part of the journey. So one has to
Also,
divorce
yes,
oneself from that emotion and then say, how can I improve it? How can I improve it? If your goal is to reach out to the market with that powerful story, if you want to reach that powerful story. Otherwise, you can go to market for done, but then nobody's going to take that. And you should be ready to take that rejection at that point of time. So the question is whether you want to go through this entire journey by yourself in a sense of false hope, in a sense of illusion, and then come out with something that doesn't get accepted, or do you want to build rigor into your process and then come up with something that is shiny?
at the same time, I would like to add there's a disclaimer as well. That not all work that is told by many as crap is actually crap. So you need to
That's
have
also
that yes, that you need to have that confidence and objectivity as well. That don't fall in love just because you have written, but don't be out of love just because you have written. It's equally
yes,
important. So I think
yes,
that what needs to be developed, and some people have it naturally, some people get very swayed by someone saying one thing, another saying another thing, another saying, and by the time seven people have said seven different things, they are a confused lot. So you need to develop a firmness there. You need to develop your own clarity, your own conviction. You need to know who you are. Why are you writing? Why are you not expressing that in the form of a dance or in the form of a music? You're writing for a purpose. You're making a film or a web series for a purpose. So who you are is a very important part of your expression,
Yes.
because you will express genuinely and authentically only then. So be be open, but don't be insecure. Okay, be open to make 20 changes, that's fine. But just because someone is selling make this change, make this change, you need not make change. So you need
yeah,
to make that, you need to navigate that very, very tricky terrain, because sometimes you feel okay, what he's saying, what she's saying is sounds great, yeah, she's a great, very experienced person, I must listen to her. But sometimes it may not align with what you have set out to do. So you need to be very, very clear, and your conviction level needs to be very high at the same time. So what I normally have always been doing is that I listen to everyone and then I filter that input, rather objectively, through what I believe in. Okay, and I find that when inputs come, there are some brilliant ones, and there are when input comes, there are some very average ones and some stupid ones. So there's no point in making that person sound that, look, you're stupid, you don't know what I have written here. There are a lot of people who argue, and argue, and you go on, refute, and go on and try and prove the other person who's giving input a fool, and that I am the. There's no need for all that. You
correct.
have asked for input. Have the grace to listen to it. Whether you want to retain it or not is your choice. Just because someone has given you four inputs and you are with four people around you, it's making you sound that, oh, you don't know how to write, is not good enough for you to go and argue with that person that you don't know anything. What have you done in life, what have you written, look at your right. So there's no need for all that. So I think very,
Drama.
yes, very gracefully listen, take the inputs, and after that, filter it and retain what you want to, what sounds convincing to you. You are the best judge. Whatever sounds convincing to you, incorporate that, try it out, and if it's not working, there's no problem, ditch it. Okay, so these are, I think, you need to be a little balanced from either side. You don't need to be blocked, you must listen, and at the same time you need to be confident. Now, where
Right.
of these two,
Meet.
are you on that gradient? Yes, it's the
Yeah.
is a tricky question. Yes.
So
Now,
yes, I want to add a bit to this.
yeah, Ganesh.
I think it all therefore comes down to the to one's inner compass. Yeah. So I
Absolutely.
think one has to have a very strong inner compass. Yeah. When you set out on a creator's journey, when you want to write a book, when you want to put out any piece of art out there, any piece of work for that matter, your inner compass is something that's going to guide you, and I think you should give preeminence to that. So, which is like Brahma said, don't be carried away by the feedback that you get. You don't have to blindly listen to that. At the same time, you don't have to. You should know what to take and what to filter out. So ultimately, you will marry that with your what I call the inner compass, your own sense, the gut, what your heart tells you of which of this should I incorporate, which of what I've already put in is right, what is crap, etc., etc. So that constant iterative process is something that we all go through, and I think that strengthens your work ultimately. And look back in time, whether it's a film, whether it's a book, whether it's a painting, how many cases have we seen of rejections, of people dissing something, of people rejecting something, and finally one day it sees light of day, and then there's people go gaga over it. So they've also gone through that path where people have stuck to their guns, stuck to their conviction, and yet walked that path. So I think that weighing that in the inner sense, and ultimately coming down to our heart, our sense of purpose, our gut, I think that's important.
So,
Well
like
said, I think.
Jack Canfield, for example, the creator of Chicken Soup of the Soul series, when he had conceived of that, a series of various essays
Yes,
and short fiction, he faced 125 rejection 125 rejections, that no, short non-fiction does not work. Okay, fiction works, short stories work, but short non-fiction, essays, personal memoirs, personal experiences,
Mhm.
no, there's no market for that in the form of a book. Maybe articles, write-ups, features,
Mhm.
blogs, all these are fine, but not books. People are not interested in writing, in reading these books. 125 people rejected. Some 10 of them told him that, okay, we can consider, but please change this title. Chicken,
Yeah.
soup, of soul, ye kya title hua, and things like that. And he had his emotional reasons for that, because he had a grandmother and he had fondest memories of her. Whoever would go to her with whatever problem, she had only one line answer to everything: go and have some chicken soup, and so
And
it
you'll be
worked.
fine.
And
Yeah, yeah.
yes, and you'll be fine. That's right. So he had an emotional reason. He wanted that, and he stuck to that. And he had 126 publisher who finally gave him a deal, and today it's sold more than 2 billion copies across 33 languages. So
We
those
know this.
those are
Yeah.
the yes. So those are the things that success stories are sometimes made of, if you're convinced. Now, how
yes,
convinced is the question. And I had the opportunity to attend a breakfast meeting with Jack Canfield, and he gave a brilliant example of conviction. And he said that when you're convinced, then your synaptic nerves lock within your body, and it gives you power.
Mm.
So we have seen this with artists, we have seen this with entrepreneurs, we have seen
yes,
Yeah.
this with
You just
madmen.
know it. Yeah, you just
Yes,
know it.
that
Yeah.
when they are so convinced, they get
Yeah.
power, and they are on a different plane altogether.
You're just flying
Yes,
after that.
yes, they are possessed, they are obsessed, and
Many,
that's a great quality.
yes. Yes,
Yes,
yeah.
that's a great space to be in. And
yes,
it's also possible, and it has happened so many times, that this particular manuscript or this particular plan or your creation did not
Mm.
find market acceptance now, right? So you face rejection after rejection. So you will can it at home, you will keep it at home, you will dust it off and show it to person after person after person. While at the same time, that doesn't have your life doesn't stop there, right? You can continue to create other stuff. And there have been so many examples of that. So you continue writing, you continue doing whatever else you want to do, but
Mm.
this is always there in one corner of your heart. So every now and then, in meeting after meeting, to stranger after stranger, you will dust it off and you will show it to them. And that's
don't
how many people have reached that 125th person, or where
Mm.
somebody has accepted it. They've lain at home for years. But it
And
also doesn't mean, my point being, it also doesn't mean, and I think it's all the more important in these times, hyper frenetic, hyper connected, always online kind of times, when you
Yeah.
also have other tracks, I think that's something that one needs to cultivate.
So I
So
want to add
so
here. I mean,
so
this
one
is
so
so.
one quick cue that's coming to my mind is, don't at all bother about rejections, because sometimes you get rejected for very odd reasons. And there was a
Yes.
case where one of the all-time great books by Shaw, War and Peace. So somebody retyped the entire book and sent it with a new name to publishers. They sent it
Mhm,
to 50 publishers, to 10 publishers, I think, and all of them rejected the book. Okay, and
mhm.
some three of them said that it reminded them a lot about War and Peace.
Oh,
Yes.
you
So
see where it stayed.
yeah, yeah. So people reject you for sometimes no good
Various,
reason.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so
So
not
on
so
this
not to take it to heart. Yes.
on this note, it's very, very important what you both have just said, multiple nuggets, and I hope people who are following the chain of what you're saying. So the point is this, and it's a very vital point you've come to, Brahma and Ganesh, is that fine, you listen to your friends and family, don't get dejected, keep at it and come into your power of that, where you know that you have to do this. That's a great place to be, yes. Hence, take professional help. Hence, get a mentor. Hence, take this help. Get that one session and hear it out from professionals rather after the 20, 30 friends who tell you great, not so great, all of that. It is important to take a professional help to navigate this journey faster. And yes, it will cost you a few resources of time and money, but it is well worth the effort to come to that professional plane if that's what you're looking to make out of a dream, out of a story, out of a book, beyond your mind. And I think this title also was inspired by last discussion of panel where Shalima and we were talking, and with Brahma, Ganesh, and point was that Brahma kept telling us, yes, but from the mind it has to get onto something. You just can't keep it here,
Yeah.
right? So, and hence
Yes.
I said beyond your mind, right? And you need to take. So hence I'm constantly saying this, is that when we have mentors here, please fix up your one-on-one sessions with Brahma or with Ganesh. We do that in that 1.5 hour. What you will get is a lifetime of advice to professionally navigate yourself. There is a method to the madness and the chaos. You don't need to get lost in the whole wild world. How do I navigate the digital platforms, and how do I do this, and how do I do that? And now, on that note, I have a question from Bob Sains, who sent us. Is for both of you. How much should we be willing to let producers rewrite the original script or the story in any way they want to make it? To change everything, if that's what they want, or do it the way they want to? And of course, you'll get paid for that contract. So, what is the balance there? How much of power does a writer have? I mean, we are all mad people, we just love to write. After that, who's bothered about commercials? But when we suppose I get a mentor in Brahma or in Ganesh and say, fabulous story, Candy will make it into a web series, let's do this. Okay, Red Riding Hood.
Hmm.
Fine.
Hmm.
But then after that, I'm like, no, but, and then Brahma says, no, Red Riding Hood met a lamb and a wolf later. So you put in the lamb first, put in her friends, and then put the wolf. I'm like, no, at first instance, she meets the wolf. How much should I listen? And he becomes a producer. So, what is advisable when that happens? And you get a producer. Wow, okay. That itself is a big achievement. So, what happens next then? How do we do this? Where do I let go of my baby? You know?
I'll go after you, Brahma.
So but, yes, to me, it all depends on how much in love are you with what you have written, and how much of its authenticity are you seeing compromised when there's a producer who's suggesting this or that. Okay, if he is suggesting this or that, and you feel that that's adding value and it's taking your story to a different level, which is what very often it happens. Okay, then
Mhm,
it's
mhm,
great. You should allow the kite to fly. You should let loose of that role that you have in your hand. Let it fly. Let it fly, because it's getting better. It's getting better. However, the moment you realize that no, this producer is trying to do this because he wants to commercialize it and this and that, and it's compromising on the soul of the story, and I think that this is not what I would like to see as my story. Okay, then you can negotiate with him and say that, look, I don't want my name there. You can pay me and I'll get lost, but don't put my name there. You can do that. But if you're very much in love with your story, and you don't want that money either, then you put a stop and say that, sorry, this is not working. A lot of these also happens when you work out an agreement between the two of you, that what kind of say will you have, what kind of say will the producer or the director have. They put all these things, and that is the time that you have not yet signed. So you better pay attention on what you are allowing them to do, what you are allowing them, what options you are letting go of. But I personally feel, by and large, it's not such a great big thing.
Problem.
Yes, mostly they are sensible people, and they see it from a slightly different perspective. Okay, they see it from a visual perspective. So there are many times that adaptations are sometimes remarkably different from the original book. If you see a Milan Kundera novel, for example, and the film, it's very different. If you
Hmm.
see The French Lieutenant's Woman, the book is a 600-page book by John Fowles. Okay, you see John Fowles's The Magus, again another 600-page book. If the writer, if the director goes to make everything in that, then he will have to make a 600-minute film. Okay, 600-minute film, but he has to make a 90-minute film. So there's bound to be brevity, there's bound to be crispness, there's bound to be visual equivalence of so many things that you have written in 4 pages as a writer about what's going in your mind. you know you can write that very easily in a novel, but how do you show that on a film? How do you show what's going on in that person's mind? You have to show it through his action, through his behavior, through his interaction, through his fits of dialogues here and there. You can't go on having a voiceover saying what's going on, to 4 pages of what's going on in his mind. So most often there's a particular reason why a director or a producer would insist. So try and understand that reason. If you see that no, it's not gelling well with your sense of authenticity about what you have set out to say or write or express, then you put your foot down. And like I said, try and work these equations out when you are signing an agreement or when you are giving them the rights. You know.
That's if you and if you are taken as a mentor, you will guide us through the process, right? As a mentor
Of
on
course.
that journey, you
Yeah,
won't.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, yes.
Okay. So Ganesh.
The idea is not to be too much in love with your own work. What Ganesh did point out, to be prepared to be in discomfort zones. All success generally springs from discomfort zones. If you
Yep.
stay in your comfort
Yeah.
zones in whatever field, be it
Exactly.
entrepreneurship, be it music, be it writing, so you have to be prepared for the rough,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
have to consider it as part of your growing up, as part of your journey, that these things
Yeah.
happen.
Yep.
And
Yep. Yep.
creative field can be very, very
Daunting.
yeah,
Daunting.
can be very daunting, can be very uneven, so it's not always a smooth sail. But again, what Ganesh pointed out, your mindset is very important part. Is your mindset an open one? Is your mindset an insecure one? Is someone suggesting something, and that's the end of your security? You feel that he's insulting you, he's humiliating you. There are many people who think like that, and there's no place that, and I've never
Yeah.
seen these
Then you are
people
lost.
move beyond. Yeah, he loses deal, he loses business, and I've never seen that person write a fifth book, sorry to say. Okay, I've
Yeah.
never seen that person. If he has or she has written
Yeah.
3 books, I've never seen that person write another book either. So,
Yeah.
but except for 2% of exceptions, which goes and they just prove. But then you have to have that madness and drivenness, to that extent, which
Yeah.
takes you to another level, and then you have to work on yourself. So generally, not to fear it too much. Collaborate. Collaboration is the name of the game. You must collaborate. You must convince them. That's when someone differs with you, that's your opportunity.
Actually,
you
to open your
you
mouth and
yes,
speak.
yeah, yeah,
Correct.
and speak why it won't work.
Yeah.
Okay, when we make films, we are constantly trying to convince. Say, if you're making films and you are the director, it's not easy for a director, because a cameraman will suggest something that he has not thought of, and he
Yeah.
has thought of it in a very different way, and the cameraman's man will push it, and then he has to convince the cameraman or accept what the camera person is saying.
It's
The same thing when
collaborative.
you
Yeah.
yes, the same thing when you sit down with a writer. But I'm talking for a director, okay, or you sit down with a editor. The editor will sometimes refuse to take it the way you think it should be as a director, though you are the captain of the ship. But still, they will say that no, this is not working, and they will give you reasons why it's not working. And that's the time that you have a great opportunity. Please convince your editor that yes, it is working, by telling her or him why it is working. If
Yeah.
you are
Yeah.
able to do that, great. So,
Yeah.
like, I normally differ a lot with my editors, and I give them a right to differ. But I have a very simple equation right in the beginning sorted out. Either you convince me or I get convinced. We
I
will
think
take either
that's
way.
everywhere. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's true for every single collaboration.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So, Ganesh, yeah, I mean, so very well said, because I want to tell viewers also this, that what we are talking about is as mentors, we will handhold everybody. And you must have this kind of an argument and a discussion and a debate with these chief mentors whom we are talking to today. And that's where, we guide you on the path. We will also push your limits. That's why I have an open mind. It is not for faint hearted, yet you don't have to be a brave warrior with, all the war weapons with you. You could be an introverted person. Many writers are, they don't like any discussion beyond a point, and that's how the writer is in you. But must be open to get at least the mentors of Ganesh or Brahma being able to tell you, listen, this is the tweak that you have to do of this, and that is the hand holding we do along with personal coaching. I think that's an important point I want you to touch on, Ganesh, as well. That you would, I mean, it's a therapeutic journey for every writer. We're writing for a reason, either to heal or to make others, disturb others. There are only two faculties when you write a story. It's such an impact that it disturbs you, right, and you realize something about yourself, or you're healing out of somebody else's story. That's all that happens in the two realms. So it could be a horror story, or it could be a love story, right? So this personal coaching that you all both do, both of you are coaches, and it rightly so in your own fields, and this is an important part. How much of that makes the difference in a person's life and while writing? Ganesh, you want to say that? Because on that note of coaching, I would like to then close the session with both of you saying something on how the coaching really helps you in life as well, beyond a book, beyond the story, what ends up happening.
Beyond the, sorry, what's the last bit?
Beyond the story, beyond the book, what ends up
Ah,
happening to
acha, acha.
yourself?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So, I'll get back to the mindset issue. Yeah. So, I think predominantly where coaching comes in or mentoring comes in will be on two levels. One is at the mindset level, and the other is at the level of the craft. So mindset level में क्या होता है? It's a solitary journey. So I'm just summarizing certain aspects we touched upon earlier. It's a solitary journey. There's a fear of rejection. There is anxiety. You might be an introvert, and you might think that this kind of personality is not suited for what I've ventured on, embarked on. There is competition. There are all sorts of people putting out their proposals in the market. There's a bead, there's a stampede with whether that's book publishers or publishing platforms or OTT platforms. So there's a stampede, there's competition. So all of these factors weigh on our mind at the beginning of the journey and at every stage along the way. So as a mentor, one handholds at this level to give them confidence, to hold a mirror, to ask them the right questions, to nudge, to probe, to pause, to help them reflect, to ask powerful questions, to act as a sounding board. Yeah, so all of these things, so that's at the mindset level in order to just help them crystallize their idea, stay on the path, stay on the path, stay on the path. All right, so that's on one level. Then comes the level of the craft. So you're writing a story, you're writing a book, you want to develop something into a mini series or series. So there are elements that go into it. So taking the example of a book, you will have to write out the chapters of the book. You'll have to write a proposal for the publisher. The proposal first goes to the publisher even before you finish your manuscript. So what is that proposal all about? How do you write these chapters? You have a kernel of an idea, possible kernel of an idea. How does one flesh that out? How does one understand whether that is commercially viable or not, whether that is fit for a book or not? So these are craft related conversations and activities, stuff that you must do, where a mentor also helps you, holds your hand. So then it takes shape chapter by chapter by chapter. It takes shape really in your mind, and then that gets translated onto paper. That's how one hand holds and one mentors or one coaches on a craft level. And there are nuances that come up as you journey along this path. So from the structure of the chapter, the structure of the book, to the kind of chapterization, to the kind of things you must leave out. How do you flesh out your kernel into a book? So a book is what, 150 pages, 200 pages, 500 pages, it doesn't matter. But your kernel of an idea needs to get fleshed out, and it has to be filled with. You come to me with bones, we'll have to fill it with flesh, with blood, and make it a life form. That's the craft kind of journey that also one mentors on. So I think these two levels are where one can make a difference to an author aspirant or to someone who wants to make a film. Brahma, over to you.
No, very true. So I feel that the mentor and the participant equation is a very important one. I personally feel that a mentor should probably be, say, 10 to 20% critical, 20, say 30 to 40% caution given, and 50% encouraging.
Yeah,
Because what really matters, because young minds, no matter how much you may say that, well, you have to do this and you have to do that, it's all because of you and things like that, it takes time and maturity to reach that stage. So you can, so unless they find encouragement, they themselves get very depressed, they get very frustrated and things like that. So
they
there is a
lose their
need.
way.
Yes, they lose their way. Secondly, there's another reason for encouragement. The reason is that a mentor has an equal responsibility to find the strengths of the participant. What is their strength? Everyone comes with different strengths, and you need to uh, you know turn them towards their strength, make them realize what their strengths are and why, and how they can focus on that to bring in. So there are two elements that we all work on, and all your success, happiness, fulfillment, etc., depends on that. One is, whenever you work on your source strengths, you are happy, you're fulfilled, and you also succeed. Whenever you go on your autopilot is the narrative that your subconscious mind has given to you based on whatever others are telling you. That's your autopilot. Okay, the moment you step out of your autopilot and you recognize what your source strength is, and you realize that, so autopilot is normally wrong narrative, it's misleading narrative, because that's not who you are. That's what you are made to become, through whatever, through parents, through situations, through schools, through teachers, you know. And can you imagine what would have happened if Newton's mother would have gone ahead with what the principal had sent? There was one day that Newton, as a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, came from school with a letter which was sealed, you know, and with his head down, he gave it to his mother and said that this is what the teacher has given, the principal has given. And she opened that letter and read it in front of Newton. That little boy whose head was morose, head was down, she read it out, that dear so and so, this is to bring to your notice that your child is a genius, and that guy's face lit up a little bit. Uh, we at our school deal with mostly very mediocre students. So, given his genius qualities, it is advisable that you self coach him and take him to great heights. And she shut the letter, and she started coaching him. Okay. And Newton went on to have thousand discoveries. He became one of the richest people of his time, one of the most admired, successful people. Whatever you want to say what was the notion of success. And one day, when he was shifting things, he found that letter. Okay, at the age of some, 55 plus or something, and he remembered that letter, and he pulled that letter because that letter was open, and he read that letter, and the letter said that, Mrs. So and so, this is to bring to your notice that your child is an idiot and he's a slow learner beyond comparison. Uh, Given the kind of children that we have in our school, it is advisable that you keep him at home, and there's no need for him to come to school from the next day. Now, this is what self belief does, good, positive self image does. So, there are it so most children, sadly, most of us, that is, when we grow up, we are given very negative narratives about so many things, or misleading narratives, I would say. So you grow up on that, and your subconscious starts believing that. So I think that's the reason that you need encouragement and that tapping of the source strength. Everyone is gifted with some area or the other, and people who want to be writers, there must be something that's driving them to write. It's not just the lure of their byline and their name and book and things like that. It's not just that. There is something about expression which is which they are craving for, and which they are
Yes.
desperate for. They may not know the tools, they may not know the techniques, they may not know the craft, they may not know the art of it, but then it grows. And how will it grow if they are not allowed to write, experiment, fail, and they are not guided? So I think that's the reason that whether it's teachers at school level or college level or mentors at the grown up level, see, as mentors, we do the same thing that your parents and your teachers have failed to do, as simple as that. Okay.
Mm.
If
Yeah.
there's a friend of mine who said that the entire HR industry, the kind of workshops and lessons and management that they keep on having for people to improve, would have saved all that money had the mentoring been good in school and families.
And at
you
home.
know yes, and at home.
Yeah.
So so I think mentors play a very big role. And I have seen a lot of
Yeah.
people worship their mentors when they get a good PhD guide. When you are
Mm.
writing a thesis, and you get a good guide.
Very
Oh,
important.
yes. So you really flower. And I think it's true for any field. Okay.
Any field.
Yes, 80% the flowering happens if you get a good, competent, balanced mentor. And 20% happens if you don't get a good one, and still you have it in you. Nothing can stop you. But 80% happens if someone is there to hold hand to you, with you, not in a patronizing way, but in a balanced way. And that is important, that no one likes to be patronized, whether it's a 7-year-old child or 12-year-old child, or
Yeah.
35-year-old grown up. Nobody. So so that very fine balance the mentors have to know. And that very fine balance the participants need to look for, and be open to be guided, without mindset problems, without prejudices, without feeling humiliated, without feeling bad, without feeling uh, incapable, and so on and so forth. And that
Yeah.
may require that, well, you have written, I mean, in film screenplays, we do on an average 12 to 16 to 20 drafts. Now, if on second drafts we are getting to hear that this is rubbish and this is not working and that is not working, and that's how people talk, and you feel insulted and you feel bad about it, then that's the end of the game. You'll never be able to make a film. So
Hmm.
the same thing in different ways is about writing, though it's a very
Yes.
private craft, so to say. It's a very private,
Endeavor.
space. Yes, endeavor. So I think
Yes.
that that's how I see the role of a mentor, and I think mentors are very, very uh, helpful when you don't want to waste your time discovering
Yeah.
yourself. You don't need a mentor if you're willing to do everything yourself and try it out and fail and things like that, you know. But when you have a mentor, you can do something in 8 months that you may otherwise do in 3.5 years, and that is their role.
And that's a good number to put to it. In all this, I think I want to say that from Dreambooks Films, we also give mentors not just for coaching your mind or anything. It is for the whole journey, the system, the ecosystem support, who to go to, when to go to, what else. Not just writing the script, but not only just 12 drafts, but what do you do with that after that? You sit with it?
Yes,
No,
very true, very true.
you go through the whole, right? Yeah. So we just don't
Correct.
leave you
Correct.
there, we
Correct.
take you to the end result, and the end result for a film or a OTT platform is to get it commissioned, or you find a producer director and do it yourself, right? Or and there are many who say, no, I don't know all that, I'm very scared, I just want a person who will take it and do it for me. Fair enough, that also we do, because that's the journey of a mentor, not just talking and all, it's concrete stuff. And so many questions were there, that is there a concrete journey and path? Yes, it is a concrete thing, it's not just
It
one.
is.
So the
Yeah, not a
mentor
one.
stays with you. I think the mentor stays with you,
Yeah.
holds your
Right.
hand, and helps you bring out the output in its best possible version. So one is
Yeah.
there with you till that stage.
Right. Right. Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's what we do, and I think very, very insightful. Certain points I think even I learned again today for the nth time, and I know Brahma is going to say you are already writing something. You've heard it from me or so many, but I can tell you this must be the fifth time I'm listening to one particular point which you made, and it resonates when you are there at that point. So much of clutter happening, the coin drops. I would say that, because you can get 20 nuggets in a day and the coin drops only for two, right? So there's one particular point where you said is like you have to have the mindset, open mind, we all know this, right? But the coin drops only sometimes. So the student really gets it only when they're really at that stage where you're ready to accept. If you're not ready to take it in, it doesn't go in. If whatever the mentor says, I can tell you it's of no use then. So if you're really ready, folks, and everyone who's writing wants to take your web series, this is the time and age to do it. It is ride the wave. Take help of these stalwarts and get going on the journey, because I think the OTT wave and writing of books and making them commercial and seeing it, I mean, what better than to see people having a Netflix original and seeing your over there, that's my story, I mean, what a high that is. Could we have this high 2 years ago? I don't think so. It was a privileged space up there, that lot who does it, and I don't think it was so accessible to commoners. And I would call ourselves the other side of the screen commoners who are writing but have phenomenal stories, and don't stop there. Use these people's help and reach out
Well,
to us.
well, it's still not, it's still not open to commoners. There's a way to go about it, and but
Right.
the
Right.
change that has happened in the past 3 years or 2 years, especially, is that they are hungry for content.
Hmm.
So if you have something which is good,
Hmm.
then the journey starts there, and then it doesn't end there. It starts there. If you have something really good, then it can be, suited to go on Netflix or Amazon or any of these
Yeah.
web
Hmm.
series or films. But the journey still remains a fairly complicated one, which is
Hmm.
why you need
A mentor.
guidelines and guiding forces. Yes, but
Yeah.
I'm saying that even for writing, mentors can be of great help. And so, two roles of mentors: one is to help you flesh out an idea into a book or thesis or whatever you are setting out to. There's a way to it. And second, if you have a book, then what do you do with that? If you want to convert it, sell it, see it, get paid, get your name, get popular,
Yeah.
learn a
Yes.
different craft, or so on and so forth. So these both these areas are very promising ones, and I think that A mentor helps you do something in 6 months that otherwise would take you 2.5 years, maybe. So that's the, and yes, it's a little costly. It's not that costly, but yes, it is a little costly. But then if you put any value to your time, it's far less costly than you
Struggling on your
spending
own.
that. Yes, yes, that's true.
Yeah. So yeah. So book your first
And whether in
session
books
with.
or in sorry,
So I was saying, I
sorry,
was
what are you
telling
saying,
people,
Candy? Go on.
I was telling people, is book your first session. If you have something, even if a germ of an idea, bring it to the table and discuss. Have your first session, because these two stalwarts will tell you whether you can take it forward, and we will be absolutely honest with you if it works or doesn't, because it does gives us no pleasure to guide you up the wrong path, right? So whether it works or not, but we have seen a lot of these stories really being remarkable once you've brought it to our table, because we are able to navigate that journey with you. And so, Ganesh, for a book, you're mentoring a lot of our friends, I know. So, something on a parting note.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that whether it's films or television series or your OTT series or books, I think there is an explosion in formats and an explosion in terms of the kind of stories, the kind of plots, the kind of ways in which the messaging can come out. Yeah, I think in that way, I think we are in a rocking time, and I can only
Hmm.
see this getting better and better in the next few years.
Hmm?
So the kind of
Ganesh, your Wi Fi is stuck, I think.
Yeah.
am I audible?
Now,
Now,
yes.
now, we lost you for
Okay.
2 minutes. Yeah,
Oh, acha,
30
okay.
seconds.
So I'm saying that there is increased acceptance of different forms of content. Yeah, I think that's the one key takeaway for me, for my observation, whether that's in OTT series or in books. So whether it's fiction, in terms of flash fiction, long fiction, short stories, poetry, or in terms of business books, right? So there's a whole
Hmm.
space of non-fiction where there is in India there is an explosion of content, and there is increased acceptance from publishing platforms also for books of all this kind. So
Hmm.
what will help is, I think I'm going back to one of the points I made earlier, is it'll be great if you don't jump into making a film today or wanting to make a film today or writing a book today, but to familiarize yourself in some form or the other. So make a short documentary, write a short book, start jotting down, journaling, blogging. There are different forms of self-expression, right? Where you don't really need a producer, but at the same time, you're available to the market, you're opening yourself out to the market. So I think putting yourself out there in some kacha form ho ya jaisa bhi ho, in a short way, in your own personal way, I think that's a
Yeah.
great way to build familiarity with the craft and with market dynamics and with putting yourself out there. I think all of this is going to build confidence in you. All of this is going to add up to something or the other in your journey later on as a screenwriter or as a book writer. So this also helps build your brand, because today I think a lot of publishers and platforms are looking for this. Yeah, some sort of acceptance, some sort of visibility for you, some credibility for your name. There are terms like tribe and followership and all that that's going around in the social media. So I'm hinting at something like that. Yeah. So it
That's a big
helps if as a writer.
that's a big topic by itself, Ganesh. We should have a panel discussion on that. My God.
Yes.
Tribe and
Yeah. We
followers
will.
and
Absolutely. Yeah, so there
and
are
how.
lots of ins and outs. But all I mean to say right now is build familiarity with it, get cracking by dabbling with that form in some form or the other, and then that's going to lead to something bigger. That's always going to stand you in good stead. That's what I wanted to say.
Agree. And also on that note, I have the pleasure of always learning more when on these sessions of ours, Brahma. So then I think for both of you, the next session in the next month, we will touch upon certain specific case studies we would like to do. It will be very informative. Maybe we'll pick up one case study or something. I mean, a lot of people ask for that, so we can do something in a 1 hour session. And it will be, I mean, I would be inviting people to sign up for that and register for it. So that's the next session, everyone, before we sign off. And I want to thank Brahmanand Singh and Ganesh Vancheeswaran. You're based in Bangalore, Brahma is based in Bombay. And see, in this world today, we are all accessible everywhere. So there's nothing that you can't do wherever you're sitting. Just that you got to have a open heart, open mind, and a rich soul to begin with, and that intent to kickstart. So Dream Books Films is happy to be with to assist people whoever want to take up this and join us, because you have our chief mentors and take the journey. I would recommend that, and all the very best to all who are watching and who would be watching this video later. And thank you so much, Ganesh and Brahmaji, for your time.
Thanks, Candy.
And
Thank you so much
Bye
for
bye.
putting this
Bye bye.
together.
Thank you.
Yes, and thanks for the thanks for the viewers. Thank you for spending time and listening to our conversation. It's been wonderful. Thanks, Brahma.
Thank you.
Lovely
And
meeting you.
thanks, Ganesh and Candy. Nice meeting. And looking forward to hearing
yes,
from. There's nothing like new, energetic, fresh minds at whatever age you might be. I
yeah,
consider fresh minds always great turn on. So uh, please assess yourself. Take that first step which is needed to reach your destination. Without that first steps, you'll never be able to make a destination into a journey. So take that.
excellent.
Thank
And we're
you.
all on the same journey. Thank you
Thank
so
you, and
much.
all the best. Thank you. Bye
God
bye.
bless. Thank you,
Thank you
Ganesh.
so much.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. And that, folks, was a beautiful session with Ganesh Vancheeswaran and Brahmanand Singh. We had the pleasure of discussing a couple of topics as to how do you take your book or your story to the OTT platforms, the film world, and what can you do with it. I would encourage you to write to us even on this Facebook page or on Instagram, or just reach out to hi HICANDY del@gmail.com, or WhatsApp 9579368 and WhatsApp me, and I will get back to you, and write to us, because don't stop just because you cannot take that 1 hour mentoring session. Take that mentoring session with any of them and see what you can do with that idea, with your story, with your concept, with your dream, with all of that, and get going on that journey, because it's a very promising and very fulfilling, rich journey. It just turns your mind around, your life around, so much. So take that journey, just like any artist has to join the gang. And Dream Books Films is here to encourage you, to welcome all your questions, whatever they are. There's no bad question, there's no silly question. All of them are valid. Learn the techniques, and even if you don't learn it, you have a mentor to guide you through the steps. And the next session, I promise to be back with very informative sessions as to what does it take in a case study method, maybe, or how does it what is the Indian scenario in the OTT world currently. You're watching a lot of films, and if you don't like watching but just like writing, even that is good enough. So talk to us, write to us. We're always there to help, and bless you on your journey, whatever you're doing, and take time out to write and be that beautiful creative self of yours. On that note, Candy signing off from Dream Books Films. Have a great time ahead in the week, and to take care, and all the very best. Thank you.